Hi, I'm Harry Forbes from ARC Advisory Group. My guest is Markus Bachmann. He is the U.S. President of Codesys. Markus, welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Harry.
It's nice to have you here in person.
Yeah, it's actually great to be here in person, and it really is great to have a real conference and really meet people in person.
A lot of people may not be as familiar with Codesys as perhaps they should be. Could you kind of explain in a nutshell what you do?
Sure. Codesys is an IEC 61131-3 programming system. So we provide the development environment for control applications as well as the runtime systems. Most of the time, you will see us embedded in someone else's products, some PLCs that you buy off the shelf, other controllers, even embedded in a sprinkler system or where you can't really see that Codesys is inside. Okay. But we also have off-the-shelf software that you can deploy on standard hardware platform like a PLC or Raspberry Pi or things like that.
Okay. You're a member of the Open Process Automation Forum, and I kind of wonder why you are. What do you see in that for your firm, Codesys? Because a lot of your work, as you mentioned, runs in appliances like PLCs or I/O modules or other things like that. Why are you part of OPAF?
Well, what we see in OPAF is a new approach to process automation in general. So instead of having the traditional way of having a piece of hardware, you program it to control a certain process, all of a sudden you open up the field for a whole wide range of interaction between different appliances, interoperability between appliances, cloud connectivity, IoT, and so on and so on. That's not been present in the process automation world so far, and make it independent of specific hardware platforms. So one of the exciting things for us is, and as Codesys, is that we have our programming system and the runtimes, and we can deploy that as one core component of an OPAS system to run the actual control in that environment and leverage of additional features like cybersecurity and the whole deployment part that's part of OPAS.
Okay, that's an interesting answer. One of the things that people have talked about here at the ARC Forum is the supply chain disruptions that we've suffered in the COVID period, which are still persisting with us. It would seem to me perhaps you have an advantage there in terms of some of your deliverables because you are so multi-platform. What have you seen from that?
Well, yes, we actually are benefiting right now from the supply chain shortage. For the main part is, like you said, we can deploy Codesys on different platforms, ARM processors, Intel processors, PCs, edge gateways, you name them. And what we see is currently that a lot of customers who need a PLC or a control system for their application, for their machinery, they come to us and ask, okay, we can't get this part right now. Can we use Codesys and run it on an industrial PC or something that's off the shelf available right now, and take our existing control architecture and bring it on that system and make it work. And so we have some really good contacts with customers who are successfully transitioning from a standard classic PLC to a Codesys system and a soft PLC.
Got it. Well, that seems to be an advantage, and especially since the supply chain issues are persistent.
Right.
So
it looks like it's going to continue for a while. And since we're a pure software company, we don't have an issue supplying our software. And as long as there's some kind of processing platform available, we'll be able to help.
Okay, and getting to software now, from a software standpoint, there seems to be a lot more convergence between cloud and IT and the industrial automation space. And you've talked about delivering your, not just your IDE, but your runtime environment on more IT standard platforms. Can you tell us a little more about what's coming down the road from you?
Yes, we get more and more requests for virtualized deployment of actual controllers, meaning you have a control application that you want to run, but you don't want to specify a development time on what platform it's running on. And one way to do it is, of course, you can use different hardware platforms. The other one is you can virtualize the hardware and then provide, for example, Codesys runtime in a container form that you can then deploy or orchestrate using standard Linux tools on pretty much any hardware platform that supports containers. That has a huge benefit for redundancy or for availability, because when you're not relying on one specific hardware to work or not to work, you can distribute it as needed with a workload.
So the Codesys runtime then would be a few layers maybe in a container image instead of being a deliverable as part of an appliance.
Correct, yes. And that's kind of what we are doing right now for OPAs, by the way. And the COPA quick start system, we deploy Codesys in a containerized environment, and it's orchestrated in that system by another software package that C-Plane provides, running on an Intel server.
So when is this going to be commercially available to your customers, do you think?
Well, there's a standard containerized version of Codesys is supposed to be available by end of June. What we are working on right now is we're finalizing the development work for this. And the main question that we had open was, how do we license this to our customers? Because traditionally, we would tie a license to a piece of hardware. That's, of course, not possible in a container. So now we have to be a little more creative and create things like network licenses, and where you can borrow a license from a license server, deploy the virtual machine, and then return it when done, and you can deploy it again on a different virtual machine.
Very good. Well, we'll be interested to see this coming down the road, Markus. It sounds like very interesting stuff.
It's very exciting, and I'm really looking forward to that too. I really see that the time now is getting ready for more virtualization. Over the last couple of years, we got more and more requests for that.
I agree. Well, thank you very much, Markus, for being with us. I appreciate your time and your presence.
Thank you, Harry, and it was a pleasure being here.
My guest has been Markus Bachmann, president of Codesys. Thank you for watching.